Believe it or not, there was actually a time when people considered Bruce Willis to be both an actor, or rather action star, and a pop singer at the same time. Bruce, or rather his alter ego, Bruno, actually got a top 10 hit in 1987 with the song Respect Yourself, which went all the way up to number 5 on the US Billboard charts, number 7 in the UK singles charts, and ended up on number 89 on Billboard's year-end Hot 100 singles of 1987. Which is why today, we will be talking about the strange vanity project that is The Return of Bruno. This TV special is meant to be a companion piece to the album of the same name, sung by, of course, Bruce Willis. In fact, all of the songs in the movie, except for one which we'll get to later, actually come from this album. Unfortunately, this causes a few, say, plot holes in the special, but again, we'll get to that later. For now, let's dive into The Return of Bruno. Right out of the gate, we get a taste of some of the guest stars, and trust me, there are a lot. We have music heavyweights such as Elton John, Phil Collins, Ringo Starr of Beatles fame, Brian Wilson, and The Temptations, just to name a few. Because if Movie 43 taught me anything, is that putting celebrities in your film automatically makes it top tier.
1, 2...
Will you poop on me?
What?
He was a real hero of mine. Fantastic bloke.
Sure he was. We then learn that this is part of a TV show called Rock Heroes, and I'll give credit where credit is due. They made a fictitious TV show that I could easily imagine as being real. I could easily imagine myself walking in on my dad watching this show on a channel like, I don't know, VH1 or MTV. Though sadly, this is where the immersion ends.
Now this week we take a timely look at a man who is quite literally one of the unsung heroes of American rock and roll.
Well, at least we were. But then Bruce Springsteen canceled on us at the last second, and now we have to settle for the camera guy's cousin. I think his name is Bruce Ravioli. We then get the chance to see some unearthed footage of Bruno's first band, the Bad Boys, at one of their first performances. Wow, that is a well-lit home video, especially for the time. Hey look, it even has multiple cameras. But aside from that, the footage they use to represent Bruno through the ages is pretty well put together. That and the song is pretty good if you're into that retro stuff. I hope you like that bit of positivity concerning the soundtrack of this movie, because, with a few exceptions, it's all downhill from here. From there, we learn that the band got signed to a new record label called Technograph Records, and yes, I looked it up, they're not real.
Now, Bruno was signed as part of the label's so-called Second Revolutionary War, of signings designed as a counterattack to the British pop invasion of the late 60s.
Because when I think of vintage pop music, I think of this.
Oh, nice shot.
From there, we learn that Bruno and the Bad Boys managed to get the opening gig on American Bandstand in 1965, with two of the biggest acts of the time, the Beach Boys and Freddie and the Dreamers. If you don't know what American Bandstand is, basically just imagine American Idol, but with less autotune and more overall cultural impact. This is quite possibly one of the most synth-heavy songs of all time, especially for one that's supposed to be taking place in the 60s. They aren't even trying to make it sound like something you hear in 1965 on American Bandstand. The saxophones sound like a Casio preset, as does, well, everything else in this song. Seriously, I can make something on FL Studio trial version and still have it sound more 60s than this. But unfortunately, things don't go very well after that performance, as if things were going well in the first place, because then a fight breaks out between Bruno and his drummer, who apparently cannot keep time.
Jim, come on, you can't use this.
Okay, how much do you want to bet that that was not acting? Like, I'm willing to bet like $5 and my headphones. As if that wasn't enough bad luck for Bruno, a tragedy happened at the record label shortly afterwards, and I know VH1 Nostalgia Chick already used this joke, but I just couldn't resist. After this, Bruno went into a deep depression. But then, a magical little thing called Woodstock happened, and he was back, baby. making even more out-of-place 80s music than ever. Wow, they somehow managed to make the saxophone sound even more fake than they did beforehand. Well, I'll give you points for honesty, but your music still sucks. Also, it doesn't even sound anything remotely like something you'd hear at Woodstock. Woodstock, and really a majority of 60s rock, once I think about it, is basically timeless. This, on the other hand, sounds like the theme song to a rejected TGIF sitcom. It's kitschy, dated, and obnoxiously wholesome. In other words, Bruce Willis was essentially the Meghan Trainor of the 80s. And much like Meghan Trainor, I'm really curious to see how well they would fare in Woodstock 99.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
After their success, and trust me, I use the word success very loosely, they moved on to the psychedelic rock era of music, with the song No One's Home, which was released in 1969, and apparently also inspired the Beatles' All You Need Is Love, which was released in 1967. It also apparently thinks that the Beatles and Charles Manson are one and the same. Seriously, this movie is like the equivalent to one of those musically oblivious 8th grader memes that were so popular in 2011. I would say more about this, but that would mean that I would put in more effort into this bit than they did. However, not shortly after that, he fires his band and decides to strike it out solo in Detroit. But when he moves to Detroit, he falls in some hard times, and he has to star in some local car commercials just to get by. Needless to say, Melvin Franklin of the Temptations is simply nonplussed by this fact.
We thought that was ridiculous. A talent like Bruno selling cars? So we called him up and suggested we get together and record a song.
Okay, this has to be a good song. I mean, he's collaborating with the Temptations, one of the most quintessential R&B groups of all time. So there really is no way he can screw this up.
Right here on one stage, the incredible, incomparable Bruno and the mighty, mighty Temptations.
Hello? Anyone there? I'm not sure if it's just the version I'm watching, but the entire song is completely silent. Though, given how well the movie's attempts at musical numbers went so far, that's probably for the best. And also, given what the musical numbers sounded like so far, it probably sounded like this.
Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to.
But then, we get the part that personally caught me off guard, and is the main reason I'm reviewing this in the first place. That, of course, being the song called Tie My Tie. This, in all of its bizarre self-indulgent glory, would have been the theme song for the series if it wasn't for copyright issues. Seriously, this sequence has basically everything I could want on this series. Dated music, pointless celebrity cameos, and the uncanny feeling that everyone involved with this is dying on the inside. The weirdness continues into the next part where Bruno apparently decides that it's a good idea to star in a band with 4 female bass players and himself providing only harmonica. I wish I was kidding. This is like the Jaws theme if it was made by Rod Stewart. It's freaking amazing. I would say more about the segment, but that means that I would put more time and effort into this than they did, so might as well not. And then, out of nowhere, this.
Anyway, the thing that really kills me is when they talk about Bruno being gone. He's not gone. All right, look, the thing that you gotta remember is these tapes don't come close to the real Bruno. One day they'll have 3D, hologram, something. Anyway, you watch.
Oh, now we're gonna have some fun. Watch out.
Yep, the whole movie was just to build up the concert footage. Really, at this point, the majority of the songs start to run together, so I'll describe each song in one sentence. First song sounds like the off-brand version of Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen that no one asked for. The second song sounds like Paula Abdul if she had more alcohol in her veins than blood, so basically Paula Abdul. The third song sounds like a bad ripoff of, well, basically every 80s band ever. And the fourth song, and so embarrassingly white, I'm surprised Iggy Azalea didn't have a rap verse. After that, the movie doesn't really end in as much as it just kind of stops happening. And then we get some closing credits, which basically confirm the audience's suspicions that Bruce and/or Bruno was drunk when making this.
I was the guy that invented Gumby. Yeah, I did that. I invented that.
The Return of Bruno was originally aired as a 1-hour special on HBO and was later released on the VHS. But as far as I know, there is no official DVD, Blu-ray, or digital release since. The film was nominated for a 1988 ACE Award, or rather Award for Cable Excellence, in the category Writing a Musical Special or Series. But out of 5 stars, what would I rate it? I'd give it 2 participation trophies and 1/2 of a "You Try" sticker. Only about 2.5 songs are really worth listening to, and the movie can't really seem to figure out whether it wants to be taken seriously or not. There are some parts that are obviously meant to be silly, but a majority of the time it goes so far with the joke, or not far enough depending on how you interpret it, I have no choice but to take it at face value. But it does have some funny moments now and again, and the cinematography, at least during the musical segments, is surprisingly well shot, or at least more so than I expected. Other than that though, I would skip it. If you want to see this done right, I would recommend Spinal Tap. It's a lot funnier, a lot more absurd, and oddly enough, a lot more realistic. That's the show, folks. If you like what you saw, make sure to click like and subscribe. Follow me on my Facebook fan page and my Twitter. But for now,